Hey guys, Frank here. Today we'll check out some stories from /AskReddit. Here's the first. How do you feel about Elon Musk saying that Trump is in the Epstein files? Next, you're gonna tell me that OJ was guilty. I can't imagine it's a surprise to anyone. So Elon had no issues working with someone he knew to be a pedo and helped get him elected. Okay, got it. I'd be more surprised if Trump wasn't in them. We all already knew he was that a surprise for you? It's only the beginning. I can't even imagine the 4 a.m. tweets from these two tonight. Was that not common knowledge already? What he is saying though is that I knew Trump was a nonce and I still backed him. He paid $250 million to make a pedo president. Not the flex he thinks it is. Unless it's backed with actual proof that Trump was raping teens, it won't make a dent. What it should do though is give Dems the right to scream loudly and repeatedly that those records should be fully released immediately. I have no idea when it will be, but eventually DJT will fall. Something will turn the tide against him. At this point, I don't really care what it is, how it came to be, or even how truthful it is. He's bad for the country, he's bad for the planet, he's just fucking bad. And the sooner he becomes unpopular, the better. I just hope he takes that little fucking rat Stephen Miller with him. Everybody already knew. The fact that those files never saw the light of day and everybody in Washington quit talking about them immediately tells me everything I need to know. I knew it already, I want something spicier. Tell us how DJT won the election. I think it's hilarious, and yes, everyone already knew that. That's not the story, lol. The story is why is he saying it now and how far is this half-minded fight gonna go between a ketamine addict and someone with dementia on social media, lol. If Elon was a real man, he'd tell us something we didn't already know. The information isn't a surprise to anyone. We all knew it. Elon saying the information is the juicy part. I'm enjoying the rift growing between these two losers. Here's story 2. If you have seen a company crash and burn because the one guy who knew ______________________ left, what was the important skill, information, and what happened without them? The guy who knew the clients, had relationships with the clients, who had the history of the clients and the company. They got rid of that guy, and what a no. Clients started bailing because they didn't like how they were being treated, and the guy who could smooth ruffled feathers wasn't there. An absolute star in an engineering company who, despite growing his side of the business, increasing efficiency, cutting costs and gaining additional relevant training and qualifications in his own time, hadn't had a meaningful pay rise in 5 years. Gave notice after accepting a new position with a 60% pay increase, and the company immediately countered with an 80% pay rise offer. That they knew his worth the entire time and refused to pay until they had to enraged him so much that they turned an amicable separation into a hostile one. He came after their clients with a vengeance, and while I think the company still exists, it's a lot smaller than before. I make a product that requires a high-quality bottle and cap. During COVID, supplies were getting scarce. I secured some bottles, albeit lesser quality. But caps were a nightmare. I called my way up the supply chain. Ended up talking to the owner of the biggest manufacturer of the caps I need in America. Turns out, they are completely shut down. There's one guy in Slovakia that can fix and service their machine. He can't travel because of COVID. I asked, with a mildly condescending tone, is there a manual? Or can you FaceTime with this guy? Stonewalled. He's the only guy and we are waiting for him. Luckily he didn't die and came to America to fix the machine 8 weeks later. There's a notable difference in the quality of asphalt used in Oregon highways since my grandpa passed away. He retired twice and stayed on as a consultant until the day he died. They called my grandma after he died, and when she told them he had passed, she said they seemed more broken up about it than she was after 40 years of marriage. The Coors Company has long made ceramic lab filters. They custom made a large version of the mass-produced lab filters, and we had one at my company. We wanted another one, so we placed an order. We were told that X retired and no one else could make them that large without cracking. X apparently could not impart whatever he did to others. I have no idea if they gave up on making them as we switched to a different type after that. Maybe it was just a tall tale. A great manager. He knew how to lead people. Soft skills are so important. This usually happens when the owner or owners sell the company to a bigger company. LOL, it was my dad. He was the lead software engineer for the biggest client. The company he worked at built automation equipment, and they did work for a certain large glass manufacturer. They absolutely loved him. Corporate removed the GM of his branch, and he got a bad feeling from the new guy. So he left, and they lost that main customer within 6 months. The branch closed down less than a year after that. The guy that knew we have a hurricane season had a guy at one job that landed us our largest client ever. Ford Motor Company. Ever heard of them? A $22 million software contract. They fired him immediately after the ink was dry on a trumped-up nonsense, not a team player thing to screw him out of their paying his percentage for the sale. Company never found another big client after that, and 6 months later the layoff started. My supervisor, head of department. I worked as a front-end dev in a very small and crappy marketing agency. My supervisor was not only our sole back-end dev, but also the responsible for managing client lists, our monthly phone messages to clients, and the entire server that housed all files. As soon as he left, I was just going to work without anything to do, and soon after the agency fell through. The official name is bus factor, or how many employees could get hit by a bus before the company can't operate. My friend fixed LEDs for the Patriots. Right after he left, Tom Brady left too. There was a dude. He'd been there 10 years when I got hired. I knew more about databases, and they wanted to promote me into a lead role. I told them to promote him instead, and I'd help with the DB side. They didn't. He left. We were a creative space product that integrated with Photoshop. I don't know shit about Photoshop. Company was bought, everyone was laid off except a skeleton crew to offshore all operations. When I worked at EF Hutton, the CEO was pissed that the top broker made more money than he did and let everyone know it. The broker left. Then the company got in trouble for check kiting, which was a form of collecting interest on money that was supposed to be in non-interest accruing demand deposit accounts. Ego over profits. Here's story 3. What's a movie that is borderline corn? Nice try. 3 preteen boys standing on each other's shoulders wearing a single trench coat. Let's see some ID. That one scene in Bound is actually hotter than a lot of corn. Love by Gaspar Noé, and blue is the warmest color. The Handmaiden is a fantastic movie, but the intimacy scenes in it feel quite pornographic. Saving this post for later research. Unfortunately, the Star Wars Holiday Special. Baise-moi. Well, pretty much was corn. Brown Bunny. Basically is corn. One of the first borderline corn films I watched is Y tu m'aimes tambien. Lars von Trier has entered the conversation. Nymphomaniac is basically a very well-shot dramatic porno. Poor things, I don't really know what my expectations were, but I went in kinda blind, so it was a little bit of a shock for me. Emmanuel, 1974. Promoted as erotic rather than pornographic, although that was a very fine line, it pushed the boundaries on what was acceptable in mainstream cinema at the time. Very tame by today's standards, but in 1974 it would have had ladies clutching at their pearls and saying, "Won't somebody please think of the children?" Allah Helen Lovejoy. They remade it in 2024. Unfaithful, some pretty raunchy scenes in that one of Diane Lane getting it. On that note, what is a corn that is borderline a movie? Sallow, or the 120 Days of Sodom. Here's story 4. Which album is a straight masterpiece from start to finish, no skip? If you like jazz, Kind of Blue by Miles Davis. It's the best-selling jazz album of all time, for good reason. If I had to pick another jazz album, I'd probably choose Time Out by Dave Brubeck. Ella and Louie would also get a mention. Brothers in Arms, Dire Straits. Songs in the Key of Life, Stevie Wonder. Rage Against the Machine self-titled first album. Tori Amos, Little Earthquakes. Supertramp, Breakfast in America. Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon plus The Wall. Songs for the Deaf, Queens of the Stone Age. Violent Femmes self-titled album. Out of the Blue, ELO. I realize some of you will have to go a long way back to find that one. Is Dark Side of the Moon too obvious of an answer? Jeff Buckley, Grace, art in its highest form. Wish he would have lived to make another. Random Access Memories, Daft Punk. Transatlanticism by Death Cab for Cutie. Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness. That wraps it up. Alright folks, follow for more stories with Frank.